Fleetwood Mac famously made some of their greatest music right through long periods of tensions and turmoil that surrounded the band. I began by asking Stevie why she thought there were so many internal arguments back in the day.
The fact that there was Christine and John and Stevie and Lindsey. So you had two very volatile couples starting out in Fleetwood Mac. And so, you know, you can't have that without having arguments and raised voices, because that's just what couples are. And especially in a situation like that where all those couples are, you know, writing songs and throwing stuff into the pot, and some things don't work and people get angry. And, you know, the music that Fleetwood Mac has made is fantastic. So for us to make music, we had to yell at each other, and we had to be mad at each other, and we had to fight all the way through, or we just didn't speak. And we came out with amazing music.
And in your imagination one day, you'd meet Rhiannon. Or maybe you were Rhiannon. STEVIENICKS.
Well, for sure, in 1978, when Fleetwood Mac was on the road, I got a package from a fan that had the 4 books of the Welsh Mabinogion, which is the stories of Rhiannon and her gang of gods. And the first book is called The Prince of Anwen. The second is called The Song of Rhiannon. And then it goes to The Children of Lear and Island of the Mighty, these 4 books. It's the only big Welsh mythological thing that was ever actually translated. And this was 78. I had written Rhiannon in 1973. And I did write Rhiannon about some sort of a celestial being. And it's the only celestial being I've ever written about. And I didn't know about this big Welsh mythological book. So that was kind of a premonition, sort of.
Have you ever been regressed?
You mean like go back with no.
Do you think you've had previous lives?
I do. But I don't think that they were necessarily Rhiannon lives. I think that I pretty much know for sure, which is creepy, that I was probably in Germany in the Second World War. I think that I probably went through that whole experience because I just have these little flashes. That's the only thing that I really feel probably happened. If you believe in reincarnation, I think that I was there.
Rhiannon turned out to be such a great track.
Rhiannon is such a funny song. It's just a simple little piano song that I play. And every time I sit at the piano, every time I go home to my house, and I have a Bosendorfer and I have a white Steinway that belonged to Leon Russell, and Billy Preston and a whole bunch of really famous piano players played this piano on stage. So it was really beat up when I bought it, but it has a magical sound. And so I go in and I sit at the white piano for 15 minutes, then I go to the black piano for 15 minutes, and I always play Rhiannon no matter what. This has been going on since the day I wrote it. It's like my little haunted song, you know, and my fingers just go to it immediately, you know. It's a special thing. It takes me away, you know. It's like a little pain pill sometimes, I think, which is kind of what Rhiannon and her birds, the story of Rhiannon is that her song is magical, and you can be in trouble and you close your eyes and you'll hear the song, and then you'll go to sleep and you'll wake up and everything will be okay, and you'll hear the song and you'll see her birds kind of floating away.
And then you kind of adopted that persona for your look on stage of the flowing robes, and you love top hats as well, to compensate maybe for the fact that you're quite small, so it increased your on-stage presence in a
Absolutely.
way. But it looked very much to be you. It suited you perfectly then.
It was my uniform. I went on the road once in the beginning with just street clothes, and that was a disaster. I'm almost late for the show every night because I can't figure out what to wear, so I just wear jeans. I went home and I met a designer whose name is Margie. I said, I need an outfit. I need a raggy skirt and a leotard top and a little riding jacket, little English riding jacket. And I need that jacket to have long, flowy chiffon sleeves. And I need black velvet boots like the ones I have on right now. And then 2 years later, I was in Buffalo, New York, and I found that top hat in an antique store. So then the top hat became the last part of the look. It's like, you know, showgirls or ballerinas. You have to wear big clothes to be seen, you know, and you have to make big movements with your hands like a ballet dancer does. So my clothes, yeah, they create the characters. But also, when you have a beautiful outfit that you love and you know always looks good, then when you put on that outfit, you feel good.
STEVIENICKS, when you were growing up, in a way, were you living more in your mind and your imagination? Other people were going out, hanging out. I've read that your mother was quite protective of you. So perhaps you had more isolation, more time to explore your imagination than other people.
Probably. My dad got transferred every 2 years. I lived in Salt Lake City for the 8th and the 9th grade, and then we got transferred at the beginning of the 10th grade to Los Angeles, and then we lived there for the 10th and the 11th grade. Then we got transferred to San Francisco at the beginning of my 12th grade year, which ended up to be fantastic because that was right in the middle of the heyday of San Francisco. So that was 1965. And, I mean, that was the best time you could have gone to San Francisco. So I found myself all of a sudden in the middle of, you know, Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and all the amazing San Francisco bands. I mean, I already knew I was going to be a singer, but even before I was ever in a band, or I was still in the middle of it as a senior in high school. And then I went to 2 years of junior college, and at the end of that, 68, Lindsey Buckingham and his band called me and asked me if I wanted to join their band. And I didn't even know what kind of a band it was. And I said, what kind of a band is it? And I said, well, Stevie, it's San Francisco. It's a hard rock and roll band. And I'm thinking to myself, can I do this? I think Janis Joplin, take another little piece of my heart. Okay, I'm in. And Monday, I'm at rehearsal with Lindsey and his band. And it really, you know, was like the reason we could walk on stage with Fleetwood Mac so confidently, the two of us, was because we walked on stage like that and opened for Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Santana right after Woodstock. We played all these big, huge places. And even though we were the opening band, if it was 75,000 people for Jimi Hendrix, there was still 30 or 40,000 there when we went on.
Johnnie Walker here on Radio 2 talking to Stevienicks. You mentioned an interesting thing about Lindsey Buckingham, in a way angry that the call came from Mick Fleetwood at the time it did for you two to join Fleetwood Mac, because I think a lot of people, myself included, didn't quite realize until I saw Fleetwood Mac tour in 2009 what a huge contribution that Lindsey and yourself made to Fleetwood Mac. I mean, they became a new group, and it almost would have been fairer in a way if the group had been called Buckingham Nicks.
Well,
but there was, of course, Christine, and there was Mick.
Right, and you have to look at it this way. Lindsey and I went from being a duo to being a trio. And even Lindsey, a couple of months into it, realized how special that trio was. And the three-part harmony of Christine McVie and Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham was flawless. I'm really glad it happened. Lindsey is now really glad it happened, because there aren't that many groups with three writers that are all equal and that write that beautifully and that can put that together with each other and make those fantastic songs. So it's like, you know, yes, could Lindsey and I have made it on our own? Probably. Would Buckingham Nicks have been a famous group? Probably. Would it have been as famous as Fleetwood Mac? Maybe not.
The person who encouraged you to sing at an early age was your grandfather.
Yes.
Who was a country singer. And he liked to drink. And perhaps that was part of your mother's fear, that if you go into that world of music, you know, things could happen that wouldn't be good for your health. And they did happen. And there's you, suddenly go from this person who had to wait tables, who had to clean in order to survive, and suddenly you got a million-selling album, everybody loves you, you're doing these huge tours, you're working so hard, you start to use cocaine to help prop yourself up. Had there been somebody, should there have been somebody, with some wisdom and experience of fame and dealing with it, that could advise the people in Fleetwood Mac? And had they been there to advise, would you have listened? Would it have made any difference?
I don't think that you can tell a drug addict what to do. I think a drug addict has to wake up one morning and say, I'm a drug addict and I'm dying and I'm not going to do it anymore. Or take me to a hospital. I don't think there was anybody in the world that could have told Fleetwood Mac or any of the rest of the bands, because it was not just us, it was everybody. And it wasn't just us bands either. It was housewives and lawyers and music industry people and everybody that, I mean, you were there. It was not a good time. And I wouldn't advise anybody to get into it, because if you do, I tell everybody, open a savings account and start saving money for your rehab bill, because it's going to cost $30,000 to go and get off these drugs. So just don't start. But could people have told us that? I don't think so.
Now you look incredible shape, and you look extremely young. Are you grateful to that, or do you have to work on and be very careful about exercise and diet and things like that?
Well, I'm very grateful, My dad had really beautiful skin. I think I got my skin from him. And I do take really good care of myself. Because if I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to wear these clothes and I'm going to have long blonde curly hair and I'm going to do my thing, then I cannot look like I'm 90. You have to stay young if you're going to do this. I think a lot of it's really a state of mind, you know? If you want to jump down and do the splits, then you got to take care of yourself. And I can still do it. I can't walk for 3 days after that, but I can still do it.
Can we play the song Dreams?
Dreams was my counterattack to Lindsey's Go Your Own Way. Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. Women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you'll know. Was, you know, his You Can Go Your Own Way. You can call it just another lonely day. And his verses, you know,
that must have hurt,
shacking up is all you want to do. It's like, you know, I was the philosopher and he was just mad. That was the difference. You know, I looked at it through the eyes of a philosopher and he just looked at it through the eyes of an angry person that had been broken up with. Now, in the long run, it totally worked. So, you know, it's too bad that he had to be so angry, and it's good that I was able to be philosophic about it. And again, back to that's how some really great music is made, because they say great art is created through tragedy, and there was certainly a lot of tragedy in Fleetwood Mac.
Thank you for tuning in, and please hit that like button, it's appreciated. Make sure that you subscribe for more rock-related content.